We are 2 days away from Notre Dame taking on Texas A&M in College Station. I'm Tim Priester with Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated. We're joined by John Bryce of the Football Scoop and Pete Sampson from The Athletic. We just spent 15 minutes with Marcus Freeman. I was going to say uneventful minutes with Marcus Freeman, but actually there is some news. And I'm sure they did actually come through camp very healthy, but maybe these injuries happened since then. They are all freshmen that probably didn't figure into too much playing time this year. Safety Tabron Benny Powell with a left shoulder labrum injury, and he'll be out for the season. Tay Johnson, also a freshman safety, left fifth metatarsal in his foot. He is expected back. And offensive lineman Styles Prescott with a right shoulder injury, and he is out for the season. But the good news is that Howard Cross is full go. Not quite as good news. Gabe Rubio, we had been speculating that maybe back for game three. Marcus Freeman said still another month. Tim, anything that you take out of Marcus Freeman's final words before we see him and speak with him post game at Texas A&M?
No, the Tay Johnson's the only one that you'd like to see him come back this season, leading into next year, because he's a guy they are counting on next year. I thought it was notable that one of the last media accesses we had, Freeman spent some time with him. He made a couple of plays in it's not non-contact 11 on 11, but light contact 11 on 11, and you figure they'd lose some guys on the back end, and he would be a guy that could help next year. But I got that text that so much for uneventful injuries, and I read it out of order, and I was really worried something else was coming. I think if three guys that were going to redshirt anyway are the injuries, then it's a very uneventful injury camp. But Howard Cross being deemed 100% by Marcus Freeman is number one. I've been harping on that because if Howard Cross only played 30 plays, his backup was playing zero. That was my point the whole time. That's
Yeah.
why it mattered so much. So Howard Cross being 100% or close to it is huge.
JB?
Yeah, I think that the health of Cross and Marcus Freeman just flatly stating yes when asked if he was full go and not limited to a pitch count or a snap count, so to speak. And Marcus Freeman just very flatly said yes. So I think that's very key news for Notre Dame up front. Still hope with Rubio about a month away if he's tracking well. A month from this weekend or 4 weeks away could be that Louisville game. I know Notre Dame has some stuff planned that weekend, hoping to bring back Lou Holtz, and so I'm sure that Notre Dame also would like to bring back Gabriel Rubio and fortify its defensive line against what should be one of the tougher games on its schedule.
Pete, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm so interested to sort of finally see Riley Leonard, the runner. We sort of take it for granted that he's skilled at it because he is, but like since he's been in South Bend, we've never seen it. So to be able to actually get out there and see that on Saturday night, I think that's so critical for Notre Dame's game plan. They're gonna have to, I think they have to lean into that a lot. And I'm just fascinated to sort of see it in person.
Hey, look, we've gone 5 minutes. We haven't mentioned the left side of the offensive line, but that, of course, will be manned by Anthony Knapp, the true freshman at left tackle, and Sam Pendleton, the redshirt freshman at left guard. I think I mentioned this the other day, but I was just really encouraged. No, I wouldn't have because we haven't had a podcast. I was really encouraged when I asked Mike Denbrock about the two young guys and do you think they can be assignment correct? And I expected an answer that was, like we'll find out or they've done a good job. And Pete, I don't know if you were there or if any of you guys were there when I asked that, but I mean, he just flatly said he wasn't concerned about that. Now, those guys will be going up against the Stewarts and Nick Scorton, and those guys are a lot older and probably a little bit stronger. And so maybe that's a bit more of the concern, just, getting overpowered by guys that have just been around a little bit longer, maybe a little bit stronger than they are at this stages of their respective careers. But I thought that was really encouraging. It seemed like a very honest answer by Denbrock because he didn't hesitate to say, well, yeah, their assignment correct. And that's, I've been saying it's half the battle. I don't know if it's half the battle if you aren't strong enough to hold up at the point of attack, but it's significant. And if they're not assignment correct, or especially Pendleton, because you have Coogan and Spindler, if he's not assignment correct, he's not getting the starting job.
I think Denbrock's most important point for people watching this game is to remember they're not going to win every snap, and they're not going to lose every snap. And those guys are going to look bad at some point. so is the grizzled veteran Emil Wagner on the other side, who also hasn't started a game. And Billy Schrauth, who started 3. It's the best defensive line Notre Dame's going to face. They have to have a fine day, not a great day, to beat Texas A&M in the game. But A&M's going to have their moments up front against Notre Dame's line. But to Priester's point a month ago, A&M was going to have their moments against Notre Dame's line with Charles Jagasa and Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler in there too. For sure. They were going to have their moments against those guys too.
No doubt. JB, what else do you have?
Yeah, I think the Riley Leonard component, I've said I think he needs to have 50 net yards rushing or more for Notre Dame to do what it needs to get done in this game, and he needs to take care of the football. I think the first half, to me, for Notre Dame, Notre Dame needs to win the turnover margin, period, but I think it's particularly true in the first half. The Irish cannot afford to let 111,000 Aggie yelling fans drown out any semblance of rhythm and communication and chemistry. And I know they've worked a lot of silent counts throughout the course of camp. We've heard the music blaring all over campus. I live close enough. I can hear it when I'm grilling on my back deck. So they've done everything they can. That's no substitute for getting there and doing it in person. But I do think that, again, both coordinators being on the field probably is very noteworthy in this game, considering how loud it's going to be. I think that can help probably with some of the sideline communication. And that's another element about this week that I think is interesting to see how Notre Dame's going to handle it.
John, we've been trying to find out about Chase Basantis, one of Texas A&M's more experienced offensive linemen. He played tackle this year. They moved him to guard. He's a good player. But we've heard some stuff about maybe being a little bit banged up. They have the transfer from Kansas and Reed Adams, and they have the transfer from Utah in Fa'u. I'm really just kind of interested to see, having been trying to follow this and watch those guys play, just exactly what their configuration is up front. Pete, do you?
Yeah, I would just say real quickly, Mike Elko emphasized on the SEC call that they're fully healthy with the exception of the running back Ruben Owens being out for the year. Now, that doesn't mean anything. Coaches, I won't say lie, coaches.
You can.
Yeah. Coaches fabricate health sometimes where it's not there. Coaches play their gamesmanship as if a left guard also has the key to the nuclear football. So we'll see for sure on Saturday night. But I did also speak with some people in College Station yesterday who said, look, if that's an issue, we're not really hearing about it. We know that that's circling out there. He's maybe been nicked up, but we don't have any indication that he's not going to play. Again, that was late yesterday afternoon. Some folks in College Station told me that, and that was after Mike Elko had emphasized that if they were in there too deep, they were expected to play Saturday.
It's not, even if Basantis is healthy, I don't know exactly what the configuration is going to be with the transfers added in, Basantis changing positions since last year. I guess we'll find out on Saturday night. Pete, what else do you have?
I have a big story on the Athletic today about just how loud Kyle Field is, where I talked to a couple PhD mechanical engineers about it, coaches who have coached there, and just try to explain, like, okay, this is what you're in for. This is what you give up as an offensive coordinator. It's not just getting the plays off, which will be hard, but also how game plans get affected by noise. The fact that you can't do jet sweeps, or, the jet motion becomes much harder to do because you're terrified about snapping the ball into the motion man. How short yardage gets impacted because you can't go under center because nobody can hear you when you do. So that part of the game, I don't think that we can overstate the impact of the environment on Saturday night. I don't think this is going to be like Lane Stadium where you hear about it, then you get there and you're like, this is it. This is going to be like those 2 Michigan games in 11 and 13, like Georgia in 19. I don't think it will be like Miami in 17 because there was something
vicious.
Yeah, something was afoot there that is unnatural to the world we live in. But this will be the loudest game that any of these players ever play in, most likely. And that is a real impact on the game itself.
Before we wrap up segment 1, I did want to address what was the podcast that Marcus Freeman was on in which it was brought up about the analytics and the
Pardon
guy,
my take. That's
pardon my
probably
take.
not your style of podcast, Priester.
No, probably not. But I mean, I just wanted to get your guys' takes on the moderator who to his face, to Marcus Freeman's face, when asked about what he would do if he scored a touchdown down 14 points prior and now down 8, would he go for it and kick? And the guy just flat out told Marcus Freeman he was wrong. What is your, and you guys are all younger than me, and so analytics may have a little bit different look. And I mean, I certainly believe in them, and I mean, up to a point. I guess that's my point, that I believe in them up to a point, because like like
we had this conversation last year.
well, yeah, okay, well, we need to do it again. We have a bunch of new listeners.
You can't believe in them up to a point, because then it ruins the analytic. You either have to believe in them or not. Otherwise, it's
so then what? So then, I mean,
don't.
why even have human beings on the sideline making decisions? Just punch it into the computer, and that'll decide. I mean,
that's what the numbers ask you to do, is punch it into the computer and have the numbers decide.
But even the head coach, he can't have a feel for the situation that dictates something a little bit.
He can, but then
follow
it's not
analytics 100%.
He can't. If you don't follow analytics 100%, you change the analytic. I don't agree with following analytics 100%. There is no option here. It's math is math. If I take out 10 variables, the 10 variables are no longer there.
And so the math applies to
that's where the math comes from, is everything. I don't. I would, if I was a football coach, I would not believe in analytics all the time. I wouldn't believe in analytics. I would follow my own thing.
Well, you're saying conflicting things, then, Tim.
No, I'm not. I didn't say I believe in analytics. I'm telling you what analytics are. This is not an argument. There's no argument.
But analytics doesn't, just because you follow them doesn't say that the head coach has to follow it 100% of the time. There has to be a feel for the game. And that's just my opinion. I mean, Notre Dame obviously believes. JB, jump in here, and then Pete as well.
Well, this is not going to sound like it makes a lot of sense. Analytics can be subjective, and to that, I mean, Marcus Freeman and Chad Bowden have kind of devised, along with Matt Jansen, their own set of analytics. And so Notre Dame's analytics are weighted differently than other programs' analytics. And that's why I say it can be subjective. So they may weight certain variables in their Notre Dame formula a way that does lend, okay, these are the factors, you're on the road, this is how we place the importance in our program, this variable is heavier in this situation. That's why
then they have to follow those 100%. They have to follow those 100%.
But yes, but that's not a damn formula. Is my point. That's not.
I mean, it is.
You can
a
say it's analytics. Well, you can say, okay, it's not some. God, you almost made me drop an F-bomb. It's not something you buy off of a shelf and you plug and play like a cookie cutter stadiums that we saw in baseball and NFL for so long. It's not. Notre Dame's analytics are not the same as the analytics package that's being sold to teams out there from all these other places. That's specifically why Notre Dame invested in Anthony Tresh. That's specifically why Notre Dame is implementing its own scoring system. And that's specifically why Marcus Freeman has called Matt Jensen his secret weapon. So, yeah, he is basing these things on their studies and the data that they have compiled, but he's basing them with the weight of his formula, their formula, for the Notre Dame football program and what's important to him. So I don't think the analytics, or whatever you want to call them, metrics, any damn thing you want, that Marcus Freeman is leaning on at Notre Dame are the exact same that Lane Kiffin is leaning on. And by the way, Lane Kiffin has the past couple of years gone for it on 4th and short more than almost any coach at a power conference anywhere in America. But he also has very candidly said, guys, I don't lean on the analytics every single time. And I think that's what Marcus Freeman is saying.
And that's what I'm saying. Pete, confuse me even further.
Well, T.O.'s just being a contrarian.
Analytics don't have to come in after the game and answer why your 4th and short play got blown up.
That's for sure, but then don't use analytics.
That's the thing. But yeah, so you're picking and choosing when you want to use them, which defeats the purpose of analytics. It's something that you stretch over like 1,000 or 1,000,000 instances to get to the formula of like, it's more likely this is going to happen. Like, you're going to have the 2-point conversion. You're more likely to score that 55% of the time. So you should go for 2 instead of kicking an extra point. That's a great math formula. Math formula is not going to have to come in when you get one instance to do it.
Right.
That's the problem. When you reduce the sample size to 1 and something is more likely to happen you're going to be more conservative by nature. So I get it. Analytics are fun to talk about, but if I was a coach, I would probably do it the way Marcus Freeman is doing it. But if I was a scientist, I would be screaming like, "That's not what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
You're supposed to follow the math."
That's exactly.
Are they fun to talk about, Pete? Are they? Does this sound like
this is a riot right
now?
here.
It's been fun for me both times.
I'm trying to look at the rundown. Okay, this was on the rundown. I glanced over this.
I put it on there.
I cringed when I saw this word so much.
Yeah. We'll be right back with Burning Up the Boards. And hey, because you're enjoying this podcast from Irish Illustrated, you also love the videos we're posting on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Be sure to look for us on those platforms. Give us a like, a follow, and share with your friends. Burning Up the Boards coming up, segment 2.
If you're coming to a game this season, you have to check out Game Day Your Way, Notre Dame's tailgate service provider. Game Day offers everything you need, including tailgate gear, catering, and even beverage delivery right to your spot. And their Irish Express transportation from Chicago allows you to tailgate while you travel to their all-inclusive party zone in South Bend. Let Game Day deal with all the hassle so you can focus on the fun. For tailgates, tickets, transportation, and more, visit GameDayYourWay.com.
Welcome back to segment 2, Burning Up the Boards. Our first question from IC Gold. What do you see as the primary base offensive formation for Saturday? Obviously, Notre Dame will mix it up, but would you lean more towards spreading the Aggie defense out 4 wide or more power-based approach with multiple tight ends? Also, how much non-2-minute tempo do you think ND will run to try to keep the Aggie defense off balance?
I was on the Irish Illustrated message board last night and kind of addressing this. I think we're accustomed to in a situation like this. What would Tommy Rees and Jared Parker have done? It would have been, well, I don't know about that. It's a much improved wide receiving core, but in the past, when the wide receiving core wasn't as good as we anticipated being, they would have tried to put, a heavy lineup on the field and pound it out. I don't think Mike Denbrack's going to do that. I think he's going to be much more aggressive. I think there's going to be tempo involved. He has the receivers, or at least a level of receiver that is vastly improved. I think he's just going to be very aggressive. I think he's going to stretch the field, the width of the field, and then try to hit some things underneath across the middle. Torian York is a guy that he is going to spy Riley Leonard. So what do you do when he's doing that? Well, you want to see if you can complete something behind him and in front of the secondary. Things like that. I think tempo will be a big part of it. And then in the run game, I think you're going to see, counter misdirection to get that big offensive line they flow one way. They've got to put a foot on the brake and go the other way. How else do you deal with this defensive line? You don't want them coming straight at you. You want them moving horizontally. So I don't know. We've kind of been talking about this stuff for a couple weeks. But I think Mike Denbrock will be aggressive and attack this. So you can't back in to a victory against this defense at Texas A&M.
Yeah, and it's a defense. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, I was going to say, I agree with sort of the IC Gold here. Like, I think you spread it out. I hate to say it, but I think you make the short passing game an extension of the running game or a replacement for it.
I'm all
because
for that.
You mentioned like Mike Denbrock's not going to call it like Parker and Reese did. Well, Mike Denbrock doesn't have the offensive line to call it like Parker or Reese did. I think that's banging your head against the wall for no reason if you try to run it. So a lot of short passing games. Riley Leonard's accuracy is good with that stuff. I think a lot of east-west stuff. I wouldn't go 4 wide receivers, but I would go empty with Mitchell Evans and Jeremiah Love out there because even that makes it easier for Riley Leonard to pick out the matchup that he likes. I think it tips your hand to the Texas A&M front seven that like you're in shotgun, there's no running back, but even that I think is a positive for Notre Dame, because like at least they sort of know what's coming from Texas A&M at that point. But I would try to keep it simple. In a lot of ways, tempo is simplicity, because you're not checking anything at the line of scrimmage. You're not calling any audibles. Nobody can hear you. So I like tempo. I like a lot of quick passing games, and I like a lot of empty.
And we've talked, those are all great points. I agree. I think you'll see a lot of motion. I think you'll see Notre Dame believes it's so much more dynamic, so much faster in key spots. So Jaden Harrison is a guy we've talked about a lot. We've heard more and more increasing buzz about Faison as camp has gone on. Jeremiah Love and his ability to slide out of the backfield and line up at a wide out position. And then Marcus Freeman talking today, both to my question and to Pete's, about Riley Leonard's competitive edge, I think lifts the team. I truly believe that. Riley Leonard's legs absolutely lift the team. And Pete got a great answer from Marcus about the fact what makes him an effective runner. Marcus said, he's almost 6'4", he's 220. He doesn't mind it. And I've teased my story on Riley Leonard's competitive nature a couple of times now this week. I'll tease it again. But he's been known to toy with some of his teammates with his legs in camp here. And this is a guy that has a hell of a lot of confidence in his ability to run the football. I think he's very eager. He's not going to abandon the throw game so that he can take off with his legs. I just think he's eager to compete and get out there and show that he's a well-rounded athlete playing quarterback, or a quarterback who is a well-rounded athlete. I think those are all assets for Notre Dame. And I think guys like Cooper Flanagan and Eli Raridon, who both appear fully healthy, and we think Mitchell Evans is more or less almost there, then I think those guys also can present some matchup problems for you.
I tend to agree with Pete on the 4 wide, as long as one of them is Mitchell Evans or Cooper Flanagan or Jaden Thomas as a detached tight end situation. Like people have called him a tight end before accidentally on the newscasts, and in this situation, he does block better than the other wide receivers. I don't know if I like empty as much as Pete, because Pete, I did a study, and 11.4% of the time, empty works 100% of the time. So analytically speaking, I don't know about that one. Yep.
Sounds like analytics to me.
Yes.
Pete, I agree with the screen game. I think that's going to be significant. I just think that the screen game is an extension of the passing game, not an extension of the run game. Does that make sense?
And I'll say it again. We've seen Notre Dame work some non-traditional screens we didn't see a lot in camp, but if we paid attention, we saw a couple of non-traditional screens that I really liked. That again, if you get a team flowing in the moment and all expecting one thing, a screen like that going completely the opposite direction can be even more effective. And on tempo, hey, we've talked a lot about the heat, and I've got one more stat coming in that in my prediction part of it. But Texas A&M's dudes are going to get tired too. So if Notre Dame controls tempo and is even at the line and they can't shuffle dudes on the D-line, that's important as well. And Nick Scorton played in the Big Ten last year. So let's remember that. He's not used to it.
Such a great point. I didn't want to bring this up because it seems so long ago, but like Notre Dame back in the day when they played tempo, it didn't matter if they were home or on the road, they were dead. Remember, they couldn't deal with tempo at one point. This is a very new in that they're playing different positions and coming from different places. Texas A&M defense. It's not like a rookie Texas A&M defense like Notre Dame's offensive line, but I think Notre Dame can create some issues with tempo too for them. You get tired at home. You could get tired at home. Our question number 2 is from Buckholtz 3131. A little historical question here. What has been the best Notre Dame opener in the time you've been covering the team? What has been the worst of the time you've been covering the team, or for some of you, been a fan of the team?
Well, isn't the worst the easiest one, the South Florida game?
It is.
No, not South Florida.
Texas?
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Okay, Georgia. Oh, wow, that was really bad. That was really one-sided. That was really one-sided. I was focused more on the good ones, and I've been around for, 8 of the Michigan ones. But you know what? I'm going to point to for me, if we're going to go back, I'm the only one that can go back this far here. 86, which was Holtz's first game, playing Michigan. They lost. It was devastating because it looked like they were going to be Michigan. But if that didn't signal to you that Notre Dame was going to be back under Lou Holtz, I don't know what did. And from there, it took off. That was a rough season, there's no doubt, but it ended on a high note at USC. And so USC was kind of the demarcation, the next step. But the first step was that first game against Michigan when they lost by a point to Michigan.
I've got the Texas game in 15 because rarely have you seen Notre Dame put a complete performance together like that opening week. You didn't know how good Texas was going to be or not be. But that was a marquee game that I think people have been looking forward to since it was scheduled. So that would be up there with probably the Michigan game in 18 second, just because that was those two heavyweights. You had questions about Notre Dame. Like that Michigan game reminds me a lot of this game coming up on Saturday in terms of the questions for both schools. But yeah, Texas would be one, and then I'd put Michigan at number 2 in 18.
ND beating that we didn't know at the time it meant anything. ND beating Tom Brady at number 5 Michigan when Michigan was defending national champs was a pretty big deal in the opener, 98. Priester, I was going to say 86 too because they looked 1,000% different than they had ever looked in my lifetime because I only watched 4 years of Jerry Faust basically. An interesting one that meant nothing, Pete. This is one of the oddities. 2009 against Kaepernick in Nevada, and they just looked so fun on offense, and their defense had a shutout, and that was the last time the defense looked like that. But I think 15 is a great call because no matter what, Texas is a power program like that. It's amazing to destroy the Texas program like that in the opener. So that would be a recent one for fun.
I mean, I don't have the depth of knowledge whatsoever. A couple on the Notre Dame spectrum for me would be 2018, like I mentioned, that win against Michigan. Michigan was really hyped up, had a lot of talent, and you just wondered if Notre Dame could make enough plays against Michigan. I thought that was a very impressive win. That was, I guess, Chip Long helping lead the Irish to the playoffs that year, significant. And then for me, I paid attention to Notre Dame with my wife being a South Bend native, even though I was still in the SEC in 2016. And remember watching that primetime game against Texas, and I think it was Corey Robinson that got injured in the end zone.
Torrey Hunter Jr.
Torrey Hunter Jr. I knew it was the offspring of an elite athlete, but to me that one because it set the tone for that season for Notre Dame in such a negative way that they were not going to be able to win close games or not consistently enough, and that sort of contest completely derailed their entire season, in my opinion. So that one, and then on a non-Notre Dame note, I covered a season opener, I think, where Derek Dooley took, or maybe it was Butch Jones, took Tennessee out to Oregon, and Oregon was really humming and beat them, like 60 to 10 or something. And it really looked like the four of us trying to run and keep pace with guys like Ben Morrison and Jeremiah Love, and you had some thick numbers on special teams, and that's a hell of a bad recipe.
Tim, there's one more to throw out there, and it didn't play out this way, but losing to Northwestern in the 95 opener is a 28.5 point favorite. Now, both teams ended up in BC at whatever they call them then, major bowls, Orange and Rose, but that seemed like the end of the world.
That was devastating, no doubt about it. I thought an interesting question here from Coach Domer. Are any of the changes along the offensive line being driven by the scheme Mike Denbrock is implementing? Is he looking for different skill sets than previously recruited for? I mean, I'm not sure that
you kind of asked that question a little bit yesterday, and he just mentioned that losing weight while being stronger is always a good thing. That was a pretty standard answer by Mike Denbrock.
Yeah, I think for all human beings, that's true. Yeah, I think that would be it's probably a touch wishful thinking for Coach Domer that suddenly they have these new offensive linemen to fit a scheme that even though these offensive linemen were committed to the old guy.
I would just say, again, it drives to what Marcus Freeman and company are doing in recruiting. And now I'm the one guilty of bringing up analytics, but Notre Dame has its formula where it weights guys at every position, weights them with variable factors, not literally their weight, although that's obviously one of the factors. And Notre Dame has certain characteristics that it's looking for in their offensive linemen that it values perhaps more than some other programs. And I think athleticism is certainly one of those, some versatility there. If guys have wrestled, a guy like Will Black is that who I'm thinking of properly in the 25 class. He was number one on Notre Dame's board a long time before he became as widely recognized as a national recruit.
And I think Lauren Lando's entry into Notre Dame it makes a difference too, because his approach is a little bit more, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but They want them a little bit more athletic and not necessarily, 345 pounds. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I talked to Lando about this. They're called KPIs, key performance indicators, and number one for linemen on both sides of the ball is bend. So that is sort of an athleticism. It's sort of a flexibility. It's like, kind of a mix of different things, but bend is number one. And I think, look, we saw with Tosh Baker, he doesn't bend very well.
no.
Anthony Knapp does. So if you can bring everything else along, great. That's kind of more of the player you're looking for.
And this is not to disparage past great lines, but sometimes you can be great until you run into Georgia and Alabama and schools like that can match you power for power, but they're quicker than you. They just have a much quicker feet than you. Tim, remember we were analyzing the Alabama game in 2020, and the immediate thing was they can't keep up scoring with this incredibly all-time great offense. And then you looked and thought, holy cow, Alabama's defensive line might be better than Notre Dame's offensive line, which means it's over. I mean, NDO line played pretty well, but it was not going in. You didn't know who was better. It got a little worrisome with Barmore and those guys.
We knew just about everything we needed to know when we saw DJ Fluker come on the field for the first time. That took your breath away a little bit. We have a question from Domer Hardly Know Her. With both defenses likely having the advantage over the offenses, field position will be supremely important. Who has the advantage on special teams in this game?
I think it's Notre Dame. I do. I think even though James Rendell is making his American college football debut, this coaching staff has repeatedly expressed confidence in him, and this is a program that believes he's going to be a problem for the opposition, not just because of the power of his leg, but the way that he kicks the ball, spins the ball, the trajectory of his kicks. And then Pete's made the great point. Mitch Jeter's kicked at Kyle Field before. It won't be the same atmosphere this time around. It's what he kicked in before when you had a couple of programs that were both listing. But he's been there before. He's kicked all over the SEC before. And then Faison and Harrison are really, really good. I mean, Harrison is a returning All-American specialist, and Faison is a guy that the staff increasingly believes will have a chance to play at the next level. So I think it's Notre Dame.
I probably agree with that. I'm one of the guys I'm most interested to sort of see is Terry Bussey. But we don't know how they're going to use them or use him. His punt return, kick return, how do they get the ball in his hands on special teams? So it's like, is he a gadget player or is he Zachariah Branch?
Right.
Because if he's Zachariah Branch, then I could make the argument for A&M having the advantage. But until we see it, it's kind of hard to go down that route.
If Elko hadn't brought in Patrick Doherty from Duke as his special teams coach, I would definitely, well, I'm going to say it's Notre Dame anyway, but I think the advantage would have been more significant. Doherty had top 25 special teams in each of the last 2 years for Duke, so he should make a difference. But while Notre Dame's punter James Rendell will be making his first collegiate punt, Texas A&M's Tyler White will also be making his first collegiate punt. He didn't attempt any last year. And Randy Bond, their kicker, he tried 35 field goals last year because they had such issues in the red zone, and he had, 26 of 35 or something along those lines, but he missed badly on a key field goal late against Tennessee, and then had a game tying field goal from, I believe, 42 yards against Mississippi that was partially blocked at the line of scrimmage. So I say advantage Notre Dame. It would have been greater had Patrick Doherty not been brought in from Duke.
Yeah, I agree. Advantage Notre Dame, because even if Mitch Jeter was missing some kicks purportedly during camp, he's 21 to 23, and that's not the same as 25. I mean, Notre Dame is proven everywhere in special teams except for punter. And they even have a good core of special teams players back in coverage. So I would give them the advantage. Obviously, we know more about their core than Texas A&M's core in terms of coverage.
Right. Judge Arthur Vandalay asks, if Notre Dame beats Texas A&M, what percentage would you give them to finish undefeated, make the Final Four, and win the whole thing?
What is with the math on this podcast?
I know. Well, I'll give you the percentage I gave before. If they beat A&M, I think they're going undefeated. So does that make it 100% of the time, every percent of the time, or do we have to vary? But are there variables in here? I actually think if they beat A&M, it means they're really, really good. and B, they don't play as many good teams. So I think that they'll go undefeated. Obviously, Georgia Tech looks better, Florida State looks worse, and that could change by October 1st. So that's, Priest, that was your best point on the message board. Georgia Tech looked much better than we thought they were going to look. Florida State looked worse. It's game number one. It's not always that way. I do think Notre Dame's, we talk about this, they played CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, and 10-0 Clemson 2 years ago. This year they're playing Connor Wegman and A&M. Let's roll if they beat this game, right? If they win this game.
Yeah, I'm with you that I think I hesitate they probably will go undefeated. But man, if they but the thing is, if they beat A&M, that means they're really good.
Right.
So yeah, it's, in terms of spinning that forward, making the Final Four, I don't think they can make the Final Four unless they go undefeated. Because if they don't go undefeated, they're not the 5 or the 6 seed.
No, that's true.
You have to be the 5 or the 6 seed if you're going to make the Final Four. I just don't see a world where Notre Dame is able to beat Penn State, then Georgia, then Ohio State, then Oregon 4 in a row. But I do see a world where they can beat Boise State, followed by Utah, and then then you're in the semifinals. So you got to, I think to get where you want to go, you got to go undefeated. Because 11-1, I don't think is going to get you that 5 or 6 seed.
Wow. So there, what I took from that is that Pete has Boise State getting a playoff bid. So
yeah, Tulane's out. I've been a big Tulane backer all season, but I'm switching off season. I'm switching to Boise State.
I think it might be Memphis, but anyway, I think that I would tend to expect Notre Dame to go undefeated if it wins Saturday night at Texas A&M. I almost wish I could answer this question on Monday after we've seen both Notre Dame. Well, no, I mean, after we've seen not only Notre Dame, but I want to see USC on Sunday. That's my point. Like, I wouldn't care to answer this question if we were watching USC tonight and we had a podcast tomorrow. I don't know enough about USC. I think USC is going to lose multiple games this year. If USC somehow comes out and really handles LSU on Sunday, then that's going to change my percentage of expectation for undefeated, regardless of what Notre Dame does on Saturday night. I think if Notre Dame wins Saturday night, it means Notre Dame could be a really good team. I'm not going to proclaim Notre Dame already a really good team if it wins Saturday night, unless it just blows the doors off the Aggies. But I think it can be a really good team. And I will say again that it's the biggest game of Marcus Freeman's career. But if he goes and wins it, then he gets to coach an even bigger game.
I think that's an excellent point, JB. And, I think if they win the first game, I will be predicting them to win every game on the Friday before the game, moving forward, unless, of course, you have some injuries. And for everybody that doesn't understand completely, the reason why Pete said it's so important for Notre Dame to be the 5 or 6 seed is because if you're the 5 seed and you win at home, then you play the number 4 seed, and that's the flat out winners of each conference. So chances are the Big Ten and the SEC will be holding down the 1 and 2 spots. So in the number 3 and number 4 seeds, that's probably going to be the Big 12 and ACC. And you'd much rather play after winning at home, West Virginia or, Virginia Tech. I think I'm kind of really high on Virginia Tech this year. I think they're going to be really good. But
I'd like to play Duke. That'd be good too. Just throw them out there.
I don't think Duke is going to be. I think Duke could finish last in the ACC this year, actually.
Good idea. Play them.
Looking to upgrade your wardrobe? Founded by Notre Dame alum Ga Wang, you've seen ESQ's custom clothing on the player walk and all of your favorite players and coaches. With over a decade of making the best bespoke clothing available, ESQ will help you look and feel your best. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt, or bomber jacket, or that perfect tuxedo for wedding season, check out esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention Irish Illustrated and get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com.
Our next question is from Statman72. There is speculation that teams with legitimate playoff hopes would lessen their workload a bit during the season to be as fresh and uninjured as possible for the playoff. Freeman noted Indy worked 15% more this preseason than in prior years. What do you make of that?
Pete starts out. Oh, I'm sorry, JB.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't even know who you said started us off. I apologize. I've written about it. I've answered about it. So, again, 15% more. Yes, the NCAA mandates the number of days you can practice, the number of rests you have to have in between practices, the number of days you can go in a row. What it does not mandate is how many reps you can get on the field in a certain amount of time. Notre Dame's improved depth, as Marcus Freeman alluded to, allowed it to quote two spot, which means they were basically running concurrent practices on the LaBar practice fields, both one and two, and able to get more work done in that regard. And I think T.O. had a great point on the board. He was like, and I don't even know a walk-on defensive lineman or offensive lineman off the top of my head enough to speak, but Riley Mills was going against quality when Riley Mills was out there, and Armel Mukum, as he tries to carve a role, was still going against somebody quality on scholarship opposite from him. That again, I think reflects that the roster has been raised from the floor up. I don't think the ceiling maybe overall isn't quite where I think Marcus Freeman potentially could get it, but I think he's definitely raised the floor, and that's how Notre Dame was able to do so. Also, the reason Notre Dame volunteered to accept the college football playoff format as is and never be eligible for a 1 through 4 bye in its current iteration is because Notre Dame does not have to play a conference championship. So that's why I think Notre Dame dives into the sports science, believes it got more work done, doesn't mind to get more work done. It wants to be more prepared, and it does not play a conference championship. And there's 2 buys this year.
All true. I would be interested, and I didn't get a chance to ask Marcus this because I forgot to ask him, how that 15% compares to 2022 when they open against Ohio State. Because when I talked to sort of players or people around them, it sounded like that training camp was a real meat grinder. Like every day was just like knockdown, drag out stuff. I don't think last year, certainly they weren't that way. And so if they're 15% up from last year, that may still be less intense than it was 2 years ago. But I think that's a smart adjustment to make, because the camp that they ran 2 years ago was that hurt their availability for week one.
Yeah, I think the 2 spot is huge. And Pete, if you're wondering, it was Jimmy Byrne that caught some friendly fire on the board when I was talking about going against better players. So, next question, Shibe 43. Given Knapp and Pendleton 1 jobs through camp, do you expect them to play the entire game outside of defensive ends having a 70% win rate? In other words, do they have to get killed to be sat down? Or God forbid, do you envision some sort of odd substitution pattern a la Louisville last year? I got a 2-word answer for that one.
Man, a 70% win rate for a defensive end is a murder. Yeah, that's the offensive line. Like if Knapp and Pendleton win 85% of the time, that's still not that great. Because the 15% of the time is potentially catastrophic.
Yeah,
so
another percentage question.
It's your offensive line. They need to win like 98% of the time. That's going to be really tough for both of those guys. I don't if they rotate, it's something went wrong. That's kind of how I would see that.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, like, you don't go through all a camp and make a determination about these guys and then have a quick, trigger with them. I don't think that you can look at it that way. You definitely won't with Knapp, because Baker is not going to be an improvement. Maybe you look at it a little bit differently with Coogan because of his experience, or Spindler because of their experience. But I just, the notion that you're going to go in there, and if like they'd have to be destroyed. They'd just like to have to, just cave completely. And they wouldn't choose these 2 strong-minded kids if they were, on the verge of not being able to hold up and then psychologically and emotionally cashing it in. I just don't really think that it's something that has to be on Notre Dame's radar, but I don't think that I don't think it's going to happen that way. I really don't. Although, man, the more I watch Nick Scorton, geez, he good. He would have been a 1st-round draft pick this year. I don't even understand why he stayed in college football. Maybe I don't know. From what I've seen of him, he's ready for the NFL this year. He definitely will be.
Why are people staying in college football these days?
Well, okay. Well, I understand, but I think he's going to be a 1st-round draft pick.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They stay in college football to make a little bit more money because they're uncertain about their NFL future. There is nothing uncertain about Nick Scorton's NFL future. He is absolutely a 1st-round draft pick. just the way Tariq Bracy was going to be drafted in it. No, he's absolutely a first-round draft pick. Question from Jay Zuber 3K. Taking a 30,000-foot view of the game in College Station, shouldn't a borderline top 5 team with hopes of doing damage in the playoffs beat a fringe top 20 team with a new head coach, even if it's on the road?
The top 5 and top 20 voters, the guys that vote for 1 through 25, don't know anything anywhere near the people do in Las Vegas about college football. Either now or a week 10 or a week 15. There is no way writers, the 60 writers that comprise the Associated Press poll, have watched Florida film, have watched Texas A&M. They don't know about Notre Dame's depth of the defensive line, unless you're Eric Hansen as the voter from South Bend. And the top 25, I want every beat writer to try to do their own top 25 while you spend 9 hours in a press box analyzing the 2 teams you're watching. And explain to me how you could possibly do that. Vegas knows more than us when we're doing this. I don't know who is going to be good on Tennessee. John Bryce does, but he doesn't know who's going to be good on Arizona State.
Yeah, I don't know. It's college football. Fringe top 20 teams beat top 5 teams all the time at home. All the time. I mean, this has happened a dozen times a year. So I don't think shouldn't this happen because X? I just don't think that applies it doesn't apply ever, but it definitely doesn't apply in week 1.
And here is, I'm trying to find the document on our phones that our friend Kevin Sinclair sent out, but he did a really deep dive on the rosters. And so forget the rankings. Forget the national rankings, the top 25 stuff. But when you look at recruiting rankings, and I think someone else made the point this week, there's a formula out there. More math. Yippee. There's a formula out there that has A&M as a more talented roster, top to bottom, based on all the composite recruiting rankings than what Notre Dame's roster is. Now, Kevin Sinclair has done a great job crunching the numbers. And if you look at the average recruiting ranking starter from the 247 composite, Kevin Sinclair tabulated it. Notre Dame's average starter recruiting ranking is 293. Texas A&M's average recruiting ranking starter number is 627. So Notre Dame does have the more talented starters based on composite recruiting rankings and where they are. But then also you look into that and you remember Riley Leonard was a 3-star recruit. And then he was a 4-star portal recruit. So obviously there's some subjectivity there. But when you look at the rosters, yes, people are saying Texas A&M is a favorite in this game, Vegas particularly, because of home field advantage and because of the belief in the overall talent of Texas A&M's roster. I think that Notre Dame could and should win this game. I think it's particularly damaging if Notre Dame does not win this game.
Part of what brings down the ratings of Texas A&M are transfers from Central Michigan and Kansas and Bowling Green. I'm not finding some other ones here, but
with
Kansas
AP
State
voters too, Tim, they look at schedules. You're trying to predict some people are trying to predict what's going to happen. And A&M has the SEC schedule. Notre Dame has Louisville, Florida State, and USC
right.
coming up. I mean,
no,
Pete,
I'm in accordance with you here, and I realize that Jay Zuber 3K is asking this from a Notre Dame fan perspective. It just doesn't work that way. This is a very evenly matched game when they get on the field, and to look at this and say, oh, well, A&M's 20, and so Notre Dame absolutely should win the game in that environment. It just doesn't work that way. It's just not the way that these types of atmospheres and games, end up transpiring. Could Notre Dame win? Yes. Should they win?
Yes, they should. That's year 3. They should win.
That leads us into true sophomore. Can you put into perspective where this game ranks in importance for both this program and Marcus Freeman? Would this be his biggest win so far at Notre Dame?
It's the number one. I'll keep saying it. It's the number one most important game. Win this one, and he's guaranteed to get a hell of a lot more important game down the road. But this is it. You've made the great point, T.O., that 22, you're opening at Ohio State. Ohio State was an established program, a heavy favorite. It was just entirely different. Last year, you opened against Navy. yeah, he's won important games because 22 particularly could have completely spiraled out of control after losing early to Marshall, nearly losing to Cal, losing to that dreadful Stanford team, on and on and on. But hands down, this I've said it on Football Scoop. I wrote it today on Football Scoop. It's the most important game of Marcus Freeman's career, period, point blank, end of sentence.
Game number
Yeah,
28 of his head coaching career is the most important game that he's coached. There's no doubt about that. Ohio State was huge and all that, but here we are today, and this is the most important game that he's coached because it gives him you're in a 12-team playoff situation. You don't want to start out 0-1. Your team is loaded. I mean, this is the most depth Notre Dame has had in a long time. It's year 3. Yeah, it's it's something that's absolute necessity, I'm sure, as far as Marcus Freeman and his staff think.
I really like everything of the first 2 years was learning on the job, and Notre Dame was fine with that. It was part of the deal when you promoted him. That time is over. Like now is the time where you take all these lessons and you apply them. So either he is going to do that or he's not. If he does, they'll be in the playoff. They could be 11-1, 12-0 and he'll get a huge contract extension. If he doesn't, then I don't know where the program goes at that point. But this game has a chance to sort of set you on one path or the other.
I'm positive it's the biggest, or it's the most important game for Marcus Freeman in the program. Biggest win. I mean, you could be beating undefeated USC and Caleb Williams' revenge at the time, and 10-0 Clemson were very big wins. Those could prove to be bigger wins, but it is a 7 to 8 week march to people being happy again about Notre Dame football if they lose this game.
Yeah, that's
9 weeks.
And last thing, a couple of financial notes that I think put a bow on it. Notre Dame has more than $11 million invested just in Marcus Freeman and Al Golden and Mike Denbrock just for this season alone. Both those guys over 2 million. Marcus Freeman around 7.1 million for this year. So you got over 11 million in those guys alone. You've got more NIL money invested in this roster at Notre Dame than ever before. No, it's not the same type of money spent at Ohio State, but it's more than ever before. So those are all real financial reasons. And also because when I'm not working, I daydream about travel. And I was curious this week and thought, I wonder if the hotels in town have already marked themselves off for the third weekend of December. Every hotel in and around South Bend has already jacked up its rates for the weekend of December 20th in anticipation of Notre Dame hosting a college football playoff game. That's the expectation. That's real. As Pete already said, if you don't win this game on Saturday, you have a hell of a hard time getting to host a college football playoff game.
Well, just stay at the John Bryce or Tim O'Malley Airbnbs, right? Right, JB? If that happens, we're fine. There's no.
All right, predictions,
I'm paying
guys.
for Christmas. If Notre Dame's hosting a playoff game, I'm paying for Christmas.
Prediction time. JB, you're up first.
Yeah, I like Notre Dame. I believe in Notre Dame. I believe for the reasons I just outlined there, not the fiscal ones, but the triumvirate at the top of the Notre Dame program of those three, Marcus Freeman, Al Golden, and Mike Denbrock. I believe a lot in Riley Leonard from everything we've heard. We have to see it. We have to have it shown to us on the field. But I think Notre Dame meets the moment. I think Notre Dame elevates to the challenge. And I think that Notre Dame wins. Had somebody tell me the first team to double digits will win. I believe that as well. I think this is a 20-13 Notre Dame win.
I think Notre Dame's going to go 11-1, and this is going to be the one. So I think that Notre Dame's offense has to grow into the season, that what we see on Saturday night really won't be representative of what we see at the end, even at the end of September against Louisville. So like I said, I think Notre Dame will make the playoff. I think they'll host. I don't know if 11-1 will get you that 5 seed that you really covet, but on Saturday night, at least, I think that Young is overstating how young Notre Dame's offensive line is with the 6 career starts. I think just operationally, that puts you at such a disadvantage. Notre Dame's defense is good enough to win the game. I'm just not sure its offense is going to be able to deliver as much as what they need. So I go Texas A&M 17-13.
I'm very close. I have A&M at 17 points as well. I am taking Notre Dame to win. Part of it is I think Notre Dame's pressure packages versus A&M's reshuffled line. Their running backs that were struggling in pass protection last season. Lack of a I like their 6'6" wideout. He's a baller. I think Notre Dame and Al Golden on third down are just as dangerous as Mike Elko can be on third down. The only issue, the main difference there is, of course, Notre Dame's got to stay out of more 3rd and 10s because it's tougher at home. That is where it's tougher at home than it is on the road. When you're 3rd and 10 as the road team, it's going to be a lot tougher than 3rd and 10 as the home team. But I think Notre Dame's third down defense is going to be phenomenal this season, and I just think they're better, a little better most places than Texas A&M. If A&M's defensive line is better than Notre Dame's, they have even more of an advantage because they're going against a young offensive line. But I think the 21 to 23-17 range for Notre Dame. The reason I say 23-17 sometimes is I think you got to kick some field goals too against this A&M defense. It might be hard to cash in all the time.
I'll have my prediction in Friday's Irish Illustrated preview. And I don't know that I've fully determined exactly what I'm going to pick, but I'll have that by tonight with the early call to fly out to College Station tomorrow, Friday. So until Saturday, sometime shortly before Notre Dame takes on Texas A&M at 7:30, we will be speaking with you pregame instant analysis. Until then, Tim Priester, Tim O'Malley, Pete Sampson, and John Bryce, and this has been Irish Illustrated Insider.